Hey, welcome back to the Big Red Zone. We're very excited for today's show. Remember, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video as well as all our other videos. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Big Red Zone. And as always, tell a friend. This week, riding solo again this week. I'm going to break down the championship weekend games, Bengals, Chiefs, and 49ers, Eagles. Also, big news broke this morning, actually. I'm recording on Wednesday. Tom Brady retires, so I'll break down that again. Patriots news and a little bit of Celtics. All that and more on this week's episode of the Big Red Zone. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Big Red Zone. I'm your host, Big Red. I am usually joined by Danny Football, but he cannot make it this week, so I am riding solo again. I will try my best to hold down the fort for Danny Football, and hopefully we'll get him back next week. We went to the Celtics game last Thursday, the Knicks game. It was brutal. Tough loss for the Celtics. You know, like I felt they got up early, shouldn't have lost that game. It was just a really bad loss, and then they come back from behind and then blow it in overtime. Some question moves to say the least. They ended up losing 120 to 117 in overtime. Julius Randle went off. Jalen Brunson went off. Um, yeah, it was just a bad loss, man. And they'll be all right though. We're still okay. I'm not hitting the panic button quite yet. Still number one in the East. They're playing tonight against the Nets and absolutely torching them. They're up 113 to 74. Yikes. So almost 50 piece in them right now. So I feel pretty good about almost 40 piece and 40 piece and 50 piece. That would be pretty sick if we get 50 piece. Yeah, man, it's tough loss, but they'll be all right. Long season, still number one in the East. Joe Mazzulla going to be coaching the Team Giannis team in the All Star game. He said he didn't care, but he's going to coach their team, and good to get some break, get some rest from the All Star break coming up. So, should be good. Much needed rest for the Celtics. All right, without further ado, let's get into our first segment of the night, weekend recap.
It's the weekend recap.
So for weekend recap, we usually break down 3 games. There was only 2 this week, so I'm not gonna. I'm only gonna do the 2 games, conference championship games. I'll start in the West because it was kind of a boring game in the West. West cheapers. The NFC. Thinking on basketball brain here. NFC. 49ers versus Eagles. I really thought the 49ers were going to pull this one out, but they showed their crucial flaw in that team, and it's the quarterback flaw. I mean, we were praising Brock Purdy last week and for the last few weeks, but he gets hurt. First of all, he's Mr. Irrelevant, and he did pretty well, but he gets hurt early, and then they don't have anyone to back him up. No depth at the position. You know, they got Josh Johnson, who's bounced around team after team after team. I forget what they said, how many they said, how many teams he's been on. Let's see here. Count them up for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. He's bounced around 20 times in the last few years. He was in the XFL too, which is kind of cool to see. They actually had the passer rating leader in the XFL, which is starting up soon. Danny Football and I got to kind of talk about that. He was on the Los Angeles Wildcats, which I believe me and my good friend James kind of roasted them back in the day. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't that good. He was not ready to play at all, as he probably shouldn't be. He's not expected to play. Tough one. But they even had Christian McCaffrey get in there for a couple snaps. But brutal game for them. They lose 31-7. The Eagles offense does pretty good. I mean, their they had Jalen Hurts had a rushing touchdown, none through the air, and Miles Sanders had 2 touchdowns on 42 yards. It really came down to this offense just being inept on the 49ers. They just didn't have a quarterback, and that left the Eagles defense to kind of pick them apart and set up that offense. I mean, if you look at it, um, at the stat numbers, the Eagles didn't really do that much on offense. They had 148 yards on the ground, which is pretty good combined through a bunch of players. Passing yards, they had 121, which isn't great. And they had only 269 for yards of offense. You would think they would be way higher, being such a one-sided, lopsided game. Only converted on 33% of third down. So third down efficiency wasn't great. Did really well in fourth down, but third down efficiency wasn't great. But I think I really want to say that the Eagles got lucky with having no quarterback. If 49ers have a quarterback, I think they're all right because this defense holds them to uh, 269 total yards of offense. I think they're doing okay. Like, I think that's pretty good. It's just the offense on the other side. They had 164 yards of offense. And now you could say that it's because of the defense, but I think, when you have Christian McCaffrey lining up on the that quarterback a couple plays, like you're in a tough spot. So 49ers should be back. I think they should definitely look into getting a quarterback, a solidified quarterback. I mean, he is fine, all good. Brock Purdy's going to have Tommy John, so he's going to be done for like 6 months at least, maybe more. They're saying Lance is going to be back at the beginning of the season, but I don't know. There's something about this 49ers team and a Kyle Shanahan system where the quarterback gets hurt every single year. And it's not just little injuries, it's huge weeks upon maybe even year recovery time. And I don't know. I'd look into getting another quarterback in here, possibly. Maybe you ride with Brock Purdy, see what you got, but there's going to be such a big quarterback carousel going on. I think you might want to take a stab if I'm the 49ers. Eagles side, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. This may be their year. Uh, Jalen Hurts is a beast. I mean, if we look at the Eagles, last few games, I mean, they blow out the 49ers 31-7. They blow out the Giants 38-7. That's the last 2 weeks. And then they kind of stumbled at the end of the season. They lost to the Cowboys, but that wasn't really on the offense, and they lost to the Saints, which is a bad loss on New Year's Day. But it was a close win with the Giants. But I think this whole year they got that first place seed, and they kind of just coasted through the second half. In this playoffs, it's blowout. So I think they have a good a shot as any to go against the Chiefs. And we'll just have to see who comes out on top. I love Jalen Hurts. I don't like the Eagles at all. It's hard for me to root for the Eagles. I just last year I was joking with my buddy. Last year was the most likable Super Bowl because I love the Rams and I love the Bengals. And I didn't really care who won. This year, I really don't care who won, but it's the opposite. I don't like the Eagles and I don't like the Chiefs. And it's hard finding someone to root for. Probably just gonna end up watching and I'll root for certain players like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is my guy. But man, it's tough. I don't know. So I don't know if I can bring it to myself to root for the Eagles, but I don't think I can root for the Chiefs. So I guess I got to just play neutral. I don't know. I've never watched a game being neutral, so we'll see. We'll have to see. But big blowout for the Eagles, and they're going to another Super Bowl. On the other side, it was a close game, really good game. Chiefs versus the Bengals. People are gonna say, the Bengals got screwed and they got, some tough calls, but I think there was tough calls both ways. I definitely think the Bengals got the short end to stick with that, but I don't know, man. Bengals needed to execute in certain situations. I mean, you get the ball back under 2 minutes left, 2 minute drill, tied ball game. You can waste out the clock and go kick a field goal, and they couldn't get the job done. And that's a tough break for them. Tough way to finish with the rough in the pass, the unnecessary roughness call to put them 15 yards forward to kick the field goal. That's always brutal. Um, but I got to give it to the Chiefs, man. They did what they had to do. Patrick Mahomes was playing on a high ankle sprain, and you know, for all intents and purposes, didn't really. He showed it in spots, but if you told me without, if you told me after the fact that Patrick Mahomes had a high ankle sprain after he got 326 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'd say that's a pretty good day. I'd be shocked. I thought he threw the ball pretty well. Threw the ball a lot, 43 times. Obviously showed in the rushing element because he only ran the ball three. He had 3 carries for 8 yards, which I expect that to be like in the teens to 20s. Um, but he executed really well. Yeah, 315 yards. That's a good day on the offense. So I got to give them credit. Bengals had a heck of a season. Joey Burrow, this will not be the end, but like I said, you know, the contract time is starting to tick. So you got to pay Joey soon. You got to pay Chase soon. And you got guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd that you got to make a decision on. So it's going to be interesting for them. I hope the Pats go after T. Higgins. That would be someone that I want them to go after this offseason. But uh, the Bengals are in an interesting spot. I feel like next year has to be the year that they win it all, or at least make it to another Super Bowl, because that team is a ticking down to the years that not. Then you got to pay Joe Burrow. So I feel bad because I really wanted to see that team succeed. On the Chiefs side, they Patrick Mahomes does again. Like I said, the rushing game is going to be a question mark for me. They don't really have a solid rushing game. It's the committee, but Pacheco's kind of filled into that for number one role, and he only had 26 yards. Um, total yards rushing on the day was 42, which is not good at all. So I think they got to figure that out. Defense has got to kind of step up a little bit. They held them to 20 points, but they got to step up big against this high-powered offense. It's going to be a battle, and I thought it was so funny after the game. I'm not a Travis Kelce guy at all. I don't like him. I think he's a very good player, but I'm just not. I don't like him. But I thought it was hilarious, all that stuff that he was saying. And, he goes in the WWE chant after the game, talking about the Cincinnati mayor, he was an idiot. Why in the world would you try to fire up the Kansas City Chiefs the week before you play them to go to the Super Bowl? Why are you calling it Burrowland? Like they lost before the game even started. It was terrible. So, but I thought Travis Kelce was hilarious. I thought quoting The Rock and all that stuff. I thought he was hilarious. I'm not a Travis Kelce guy, so I thought it was funny. Um, but it's going to be a good Super Bowl. We'll break down the Super Bowl next week. I don't want to do too much Super Bowl talk without my boy Danny Football. We'll get into that next week. But unbelievable game, unbelievable 2 games, and but sad finish for the Bengals. I'm also sad because I am on an absolute. You go on winning streaks and then you go on losing streaks. I'm on an absolute cold streak with my picks of the week. I start off 17-1 or whatever, 16-1, whatever it is, and I've gotten the last 3 wrong. It's like that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow for me. So I gotta hopefully pick my Super Bowl pick right, which I'll make that next week. Um, and then close out picks of the week, the final football season of the Big Red Zone. So we'll have to see how that goes, and um, hopefully I can end this on a winner. All right, on the football talk, Patriots news. It's been a while since we've been on the podcast. I mean, we recorded last Monday, which was what was it? What day was it? Recorded on the 23rd. So it's been over a week and a half since we last talked on the podcast. And they got Billy O the next day. I love that signing. It's a big signing for the Pats. I love it because it showed to me that they were sticking with Mac. I thought that was a total Mac signing, and I think this he's going to help solve a lot of problems. I think he's going to right the ship in a lot of ways. I think he's going to get us back on track. And now all we have to do is get some weapons in here for Mac, and I think this will be set him up for a successful year. I've talked about different guys on the trade market, such as Hopkins, which I don't know. It's interesting with Billy O because they have a tough relationship from the past. Um, mentioned T. Higgins a little while ago. It's going to be interesting with him. He's going to be coming up on a contract that I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to re-up. So he'll be interesting. There's Jerry Judy, who was my plan originally. I was like, realistically, you can go get Jerry Judy, and you know, I think that's a realistic game plan. So I don't know. There's a lot of options there. They got to find someone in there. They got to bring back Jacoby Myers, and then if they can bring in one more weapon, I think they're gonna. I think that it's gonna ride. You fill in some offensive linemen, help beef up the defense a little bit. We got to get younger and quicker again on the other side of the ball, and I think a couple key coordinator positions, such as shoring up the O line coach position, which I think they're going to go after that guy that they interviewed for the head coaching job that was a former player. Um, I think I'm ready to ride. I think this team is going to turn it around, and I think we're going to be pretty good next year. Um, so all good news coming from the Patriots front. Another Patriots kind of news, big news, and it feels weird this year. It feels different this year. But Tom Brady announced his retirement this morning. Um, I'm shocked, and that's crazy to say. He's 45 years old. He it shouldn't be shocking that he's retiring, but I'm pretty surprised. Mainly because I felt like he had more in the tank, especially after the year he had. This was like kind of a tough year for him. He had a good year statistically, but it was a tough year. I mean, the way he went out, I didn't see that was the way he was going to go out. I thought he would go to, there's rumors that he would. Someone came out with a report that it was either go back to the Bucks or retire. Uh, I honestly quite thought it was the opposite: go somewhere else or retire. I didn't see him going back to the Bucks. I thought for sure he'd go to Vegas. Um, it just made too much sense, and with the 49ers, especially after that game that we had, I was saying, maybe Tom does go to the 49ers to like figure out their Brock Purdy, Trey Lance situation. He can sit under him, So I didn't know. And I don't think he's gonna unretire, but it's definitely this is it. But I'm just very appreciative and sad. I'm shocked and sad that he's retiring again 1 year to the day of his last retirement announcement. He's kind of joking in his video, and you can tell on his face he's done. And there's been reports. I think I saw it. He's going to Fox for announcing. We'll see if that finally goes through. But man, what a career! This guy is unbelievable, and I really feel like people don't appreciate him, and they still wanted to tear him down at the end of his career. And it's like this is the Michael Jordan of the NFL, and we're just trying to tear him down. And I feel like they're not going to know what it is till he's gone. I heard someone today. Who was that guy on Twitter? They posted on First Take. I think it was on First Take. What was that guy's name? He was an idiot. It was Mike Francesa. who said that he'd rather have Peyton Manning was the best regular season quarterback he's ever seen, and then was better than Tom in the regular season, and he'd rather have Joe Montana. He'd rather have Peyton Manning or Joe Montana. I just have some things to go over here for you. Tom Brady finished with 89,214 passing yards. Man, I wish he got to 100. I wish I got to 90. Wish he got to 90,000. That would have been pretty sick. Or 100,000. Imagine if we went to 100,000 yards. But he finished with 89,000, which is still crazy, and 649 touchdowns. I just want to look at Peyton Manning for a second. Peyton Manning finished with 539 touchdowns, 71,940 yards, 5 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl wins, and 1 Super Bowl MVP. Obviously, it's Tom Brady has more, except for MVPs. Peyton beat him in 5-3. But I just want to look at this. If you just take Tom Brady's career in his 30s and his 40s, just in the back half of his career, not even taking out his young years in his 20s, just looking at his 30s and 40s, which 40s he only played 5 years, by the way. He threw for over 502 touchdowns, and 67,650 passing yards. That means in his 30s and 40s, 15 years, in the back half of his 15 years, he threw for 37 less touchdowns than Peyton Manning in his career, and 4,000 and some change passing yards less than Peyton Manning in the back half of his career, in Peyton's whole career. He had the 3 MVPs to 5, Peyton still. Super Bowls. Peyton, you could take he had the same amount of Super Bowl victories as Peyton had in his entire career in his 40s. If you get rid of the rest of his years, he had 2 in his 40s, 2 in his 30s, and 3 in his 20s. That's insane. And then obviously he had the 5 Super Bowl MVPs to Peyton's 1. So I really don't see what he is saying. The debate, it's not a debate anymore. People that are just doing that are trying to get clickbait and try to look better than, like, trying to get people to talk about them. And congratulations, you did that. But that is just a crazy thing to do and say that Tom Brady, he said Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. But to say he's not the best, you can't even compare him to Peyton Manning. You can't compare him to any other quarterback. He's the greatest of all time. Now that he's done playing, why don't we just appreciate the time that we got to see him and just say it what it is? He's the best quarterback to ever live. He's the best NFL player to come through. He is the GOAT. And end it. There's no but. He's the greatest of all time, but Peyton Manning was better in the regular season. There's no, Joe Montana was, Tom's the GOAT, but Joe Montana was better in the playoffs. There is none of that. The guy has 7 Super Bowls. He's been to 10. He's won a Super Bowl, I think, 33% of his career. That's crazy. He's been to the Super Bowl almost half of his career. A little under half. The guy's the greatest. And I think people will start to, as it sinks in, will start to be like, man, we got to see him. And it's one of those things, you don't know what you have until you lost it. So I'm very appreciative of what he's done, and I hope they sign him to the 1-day contract, have him retire a Patriot, retire the number, have him be the first player in Patriots franchise history to have his number retired, have him do the whole tour here, big day. Forget the 5 years or whatever. Put him in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Put him in the the NFL Hall of Fame. Like, he's the greatest of all time. Now, do I think they should retire his number across all the teams? No, I don't think so. If Michael Jordan's number isn't retired, why? I don't see Tom Brady's number getting retired. If people want to retire his number, fine, but I just don't see that happening. Especially football is not really a sport where you retire numbers. It's not a big retire number sport. So, but definitely in New England, I think he should retire the number there. No one should be 12. Um, yeah, man, it's sad to see him retire. I really thought he was going to play another year. So, congrats, Tommy, and hopefully we get him in one day in New England. Looking at some NFL coach, I was just taking a look at the coaching carousel predictions, and man, I was on a little bit of I'm on a little bit of a heater. I got one wrong. We both got one wrong. The Panthers job. I forgot about Frank Reich when I was doing this. Frank Reich would have been definitely on this list of people I would pick. But Texans hired DeMeco Ryans, which I called. I forgot he's a former player of the Texans. But did a great job with the 49ers defense. Well-deserved head coaching spot there. I think he's got 6 years on his deal. So we'll have to see how that goes. And the Broncos, everyone, certain Rex Ryan said I was crazy. People like me were crazy thinking this guy would go to the Broncos. But Sean Payton is going to be the next coach of the Broncos. I thought it made sense when I did this prediction. I think it makes sense now. It's going to be a great addition for the Broncos, and I think Sean Payton's going to do a lot of good things. It makes me a little nervous about Jerry Jeudy being on the trade market. Maybe they move him, maybe they don't. They don't really have a lot of picks. They don't have any picks really, so maybe they will look to trade Jeudy to get some draft capital back, and start drafting players. So I think that could be a real possibility. So, but Sean Payton to the Broncos, great. Another good call by me. If I do say so myself, I got to tap myself on the back every so often. Let me remind me. Looking a little bit to the Baseball Hall of Fame, we had one person get in, Scott Rowland. He got 76.3% of the vote, so he just snuck in there. Looking at some of the other guys that were close, Todd Helton had 72, which was literally votes away from getting in. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get in. Billy Wagner got 68%. Andrew Jones had 58, and then it went down from there. Gary Sheffield. Carlos Beltran on his first year had 46. I think eventually he'll end up getting in. He got more votes than I thought. Jeff Kent, his final year on the ballot, got 46.5% of the vote. So he's done. He won't be in the Hall of Fame. A-Rod and Manny got 35 and 33% vote. So they will go another year on the ballot, which is kind of crazy. Omar Vizquel got 19.5. He will probably never get in. Andy Pettit got 17%, 60 votes. 66 votes, excuse me. Bobby Brady got 15.4. Jimmy Rollins got some votes. Mark Burrow got some votes. Francisco Rodriguez, which we called one of the best closers of all time, only got 42 votes total, which I'm shocked. And Torrey Hunter got 27 votes. Of the guys that were under the 5% threshold that received votes, someone voted for Bronson Arroyo, which I love Bronson Arroyo, but that whoever voted for him should not have a vote. R.A. Dickey, no surprise there. He got a vote. John Lackey got a vote. Mike Napoli somehow got a vote. And Houston Street got a vote. Matt Cain, Jacoby Ellsbury, Andre Ethier, J.J. Hardy, Johnny Peralta, Jared Weaver, and Jason Worth all got 0 votes. So all those guys are not going to be on the ballot next year. No really surprise on those. Then we didn't think that they would deserved it or not. I love a lot of those players on that list, but they weren't Hall of Fame caliber players. There's some guys on this list that did get votes that will stay on the ballot that I don't think will make it in. But surprised again, not surprised, but disappointed that that A-Rod and I never thought that really Manny didn't get in. Looking at next year's ballot, because of course we got to look ahead. Some notable guys on that list that are coming in for the first time. Adrian Beltre, which should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a great player. He's one of my favorite one and done Red Sox players of all time. Like I wish we held on to him back in the day. Joe Mauer should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Chase Utley will be interesting. David Wright. I'll have to go through these with Danny Football next week. Chase Utley will be interesting. David Wright will be interesting. Uh, I don't think he'll get in, but for Cologne, I don't think we'll get in, but he's interesting. Matt Holiday, Adrian Gonzalez, Jose Batista, Victor Martinez, some great players are coming in on the next ballot. So it'll be interesting to see who actually gets in. Just got in a hole looking at future ballot. So that's next year ballot. We won't look at that one. We'll talk about this next week with Danny Football. But you got to say congrats to uh, Scott Rowan making it in. I thought it's deserved. I think there's over 2,000 hits, 316 home runs, 12 almost 1,300 RBIs. 280, batted 281, but I think he was a great player. I think it's well deserved, and I just wish that Mr. Manny Ramirez made it in too, but we'll have to wait till next year. Everyone knows how we feel about that Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame voting, and it's just disappointing, to say the least. All right, let's get into our last segment of the night, the People's Topic.
It's the People's Topic, baby! People's Topic.
So for People's Topic, you write it on our Instagram and Twitter page at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about this week. Let's go to Vicky writes Brady's retirement. Obviously, yeah, it's really sad. Heck of a career, and all love for Tom Brady. Ed writes, "What's your favorite Tom Brady moments?" Man, I mean, it would be crazy not to say the Falcons Super Bowl. That's I think that goes without saying. I think a hot topic would be the Seahawks Super Bowl. Actually, was like the Seahawks is just as up there as the Falcons one. I think it was just it was just an unbelievable game and back and forth and had a lot of drama. Then they had the Butler interception. It was definitely a memorable game to say the least. But one moment that stands out that's not like the obvious Super Bowl moments is that famous Saints drive. I remember watching that game uh, in my room. It was a young kid, just saw not too much time left. It didn't look like the Patriots were going to win. I left the room for a second, come back, and they're on the doorstep. They're just making that touchdown drive. It was awesome. Like it was an unbelievable finish to that game. So, yeah, I'd probably say that's probably beside the big ones. I think that would be my favorite Tom Brady moment. Paige writes, "Why are the Nets playing like this?" Yeah, what's this? Let's get a score update here. Celtics 139-96. Jeepers crow. Yeah, that's pretty mighty embarrassing. To say the least, beaten by what 43, a little 43-point game. It was close to the 50 piece. I really wanted them 50 piece the Nets. But yeah, I don't know. Then good win for the Celtics. It was a great win for the Celtics, Page. Let's go to this one's gonna end us off. It's Joseph _ Celia. He writes, "Who, in your opinion, is better when healthy, T. Higgins or Jalen Waddle?" That's a tough one. I just talked about how good T. Higgins is. I think I want to say Jalen Waddle. I really do. I think if I had to pick between the two, healthy, totally, same situation, I think I'd go Jalen Waddle. But it's close. I think T. Higgins is right there, and he's kind of showed that the last couple of years. But I think I'd have to go with Jalen Waddle. Like I think, pretty confidently, I'd say, Jalen Waddle. So thank you again for writing in, everyone. Remember, you can write in on our People's Topics every week on our Instagram and Twitter pages at Big Red Zone. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about. You can also find us on TikTok at Big Red Zone. Look for us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, notification bell, so you know when our videos and new episodes drop. And please, as always, please tell a friend. Thank you for listening, and have a great week, everyone.